Welcome to the Vermont Music Show. This is a place where Vermont musicians talk about Vermont music, hosted by myself, Will Andrews, aka Wolverine, and Mark Daly. In this week's episode, we will be talking with producer and beatmaker Louis. What's your last name, Louis?
My last name is Lahart.
Lahart. Wonderful.
Yeah, very French.
That's an awesome last name, man. Louis Lahart, aka Loupo. You go by Loupo, right? Not Loupo Beats, or is it?
Lupo Beats was just a handle to increase someone being like, this is a producer online, but it's just Lupo. Yeah.
Lupo. Cool. So, Lupo is an incredible producer, beat maker who I've seen perform around town for many years, many times, and always wanted to connect with. When Mark and I started brainstorming a list of people we wanted to talk with, Lupo was at the top of my list. I think your music is it's always a hard thing to say. 'Cause I don't know. I think it's a mix of Dilla, K Tronada, DJ Premier, samples, live instruments, frequent guest collabos. You have so many guests on your Spotify stuff, which is awesome. The songs are unique. The mixes are super clean. And your snares and kicks, man, I'm always jealous of those, just mixed really well. Pumped to be talking with you today. So, we already kind of went over a little background information about from Montpelier. Is that where you grew up? That you've just been in Vermont your whole life?
Yeah, Vermont my whole life. I grew up in Duxbury, and then in elementary school moved to Montpelier. But geez, man, you got to buy me a drink first. You just flushed me with all that intro.
I mean, it's all true, bro. I saw you. I've seen you a bunch of times, whether it's at Nectar's or Manhattan's, or the last time I saw you was at Foam in January last year, before everything kind of shut down. Because I had a monthly thing at Foam where I was there doing a little residency thing. And Mark's here.
Mm-hmm.
What up, Mark?
Hey,
what's up, Mark?
what's up? How you doing, Louis?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Hey, Will.
Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, guys, virtually.
Yeah, he just swooned me in the intro.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck! I missed the intro. He's good at that shit.
You got a lot to compete with, my man.
Yeah.
He's flattering. Well, I've got nothing. Will's like the intro guy.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. No, it's cool, man.
I'm bummed I missed it.
All of those events were wow, man, you're bringing me back more than I could bring myself back, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird
it's weird how time
it.
flies. It's weird how that stuff becomes a blur.
Yep.
Variables included.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back note, you know what I mean by that, but it can get a little dicey and crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw the performance. I think it was like I said, last January down there, I saw you play. It was just sick, man. I've seen you play a couple times. I said what up once or twice, but I'm always just as a musician, sometimes you want to talk, sometimes you just want to leave the people alone. I said, good set, so.
I don't think it was you. I think it was me, man. I think as much as and I don't want to get too much into it, because it was a positive negative thing.
Yeah.
But there was a point where that stuff is stressful, man. It was stressful for me because I'm not a musician, and you bear that weight, and that weight starts to carry pretty heavy. And when you're playing a live show, you are in the micro form or in the largest form, you're doing something improvisationally. You got to hit the mark.
Mm-hmm.
And you use certain for me, it was I would have a couple drinks before the show, and I would just kind of break out. Actually, my ritual is after every show, I'd go home and make a beat.
Sick.
Nice.
So I almost feel like before there came a point where I was looking forward more to making the beat after the show than playing the show. And that's when I knew I didn't fit.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck.
And why was that? Was it just like the performance anxiety or like the lack of confidence or like what was the deal?
It was the lack, well, it was the awareness that, well, okay, so when playing with Danny, Whitney, and like
great
going
keys
to
player.
Oh, amazing. And when
So
playing
tasty.
there was this piece of me that just said like, well, this is what I have to offer to the world. And the world that or what I had to offer was the beat making part was me sitting at home.
Yep.
And so I tried to make up, I mean, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, how am I supposed to feel involved in a way that is offering these people something that is visually and audio wise like appealing? And so yeah, I mean, there was a point where I would just say, hey, I'll go home and make a beat. And it was mostly just because I was just like, there'd be it started with like an after party type thing.
Yeah.
You know, and then those trends start to become rituals. So it wasn't anything crazy or I wasn't digging myself deep negatively, but yeah.
Are you speaking on like when you're doing live stuff with like Steph and Danny, or like what year are we talking here? Speed me up on things, or like.
Well, no, you're good. So
I missed
those the moments where I was playing with Danny and Steph. It was way less because there was more that I could offer to the crowd.
Yeah.
But when I was doing my residency at Sidebar, which is just like a bar where college kids frequent, it was just like it was a very taxing, like I was saying earlier, contrived approach to. I'm using Ableton to DJ, which is like already just stupid for anyone who's using other person's music. So I was already kind of like looking the other way, red in the cheeks, like this is not my soup. But when someone asks me to do that, it's like, okay, you know, I'll do it.
Residencies are hard no matter who you are. I feel like you've got that pressure to like keep things different each week, and it's like, I don't know, it's cool because you can get into this like habitual repetitive kind of like zone, but I feel you, man. Residencies are challenging because you feel the need to keep it creative, but
yeah,
like,
and like now that like I'm very very I'm like working on the music theory aspect, which has like been my biggest friend. But when it comes to when it comes to a residency, I would always fumble up this like new addition to the set. There'd be like ways that I would mix like based off of like the wheel of fifths or the like laws of approach, and like all of these stuff started to try to make a product that I was proud of. But at the end of the day, it was something that I sat in my apartment and like really, really honed in, as much as just like making beats and having fun with that. So that's kind of where like inconsistencies started to become a thing.
What's your ideal gig? Is it just a like producer? That's what you want to do, or do you like the actual gigging sort of thing? Like, what's
Cater Nada?
Yeah, yeah.
You see what Cater did? Like, I want to make a producer album. I want to like feature artists, and it's been like, oh, I feel like I'm like I can't even figure out the analogy to like what I'm trying to figure out, but I'm just trying to hone in these group of artists that really trust me and that really want to consistently work with me. And sometimes I feel like I'm pulling teeth, and sometimes I feel like I'm falling short. And like that's a constant battle, man. Like you got to be reliable. You have to make good like I tell anyone that wants to get into producing, it's a game of choices. You can choose salt and you can choose pepper, but like you got to choose one. And there is those moments. It's almost like and sorry to broad it out to this spectrum, but it's almost like presidency. You can't please everybody, but you want to. And so like, yeah, there's these moments where I'm like, fuck, man, I just really want to come out with an album, and I want my album to be the reason why I've had this huge 3-year lull, is because I just want to come out with a vocal album. And that is just not easier said than done, especially when you're not in a group and you want to feature other entities and groups and people. And it's just, that would be my dream, would to be come out with a Kaytranada's, what was it, Bubba?
The one that he just released?
The one he got the Grammy for last night?
Yeah, I got the Grammy for it, yeah.
Hey-o.
Yeah, that album's
I'm so
sick.
happy for him. I'm genuinely very happy for him.
Yeah.
I'll sing on your shit.
Yeah.
Dude, hey, it's like, I'm down for anything. That's the problem, is that like, I'm down for anything, but you can't just go out in the street and shout like anyone sing on my track. You know, there's these pockets of your like life that indoctrinate you working with someone, and I think that like, you know, like sometimes it doesn't work out and sometimes it does, but it is tricky.
Are you almost like touching on the like social aspect of being a producer? Because it's like there's the whole musical side of things, but if you're having like tons of different guests, correct me if I'm wrong here, on a record, like that's a lot of socializing too, and making sure everyone's like comfortable and like feeling good. And is that, do you feel that?
There's a huge rule of etiquette with like working with somebody, and it is like, don't push them too much, and you know, that kind of thing. But I think the most important thing is that like every second from 0 to 300, whatever, that needs to be filled with like, you know, the food of thought, and it needs to like, it needs to just sound natural and sound good. And I don't possess like the most to the two, you know, like I don't know exactly what I want, and some of the best producers know exactly what they want. But I think that when you're working with a vocalist, there is these, especially in Vermont, because when I work with vocalists in New York, they're just like, the experience that I've had is just like, shut up, let me do my thing. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But then here, there's this whole like in between kind of, am I going to be good enough? And like, am I going to satisfy like whatever market or whatever opinion or whatever anything that they're trying to make sure that they're not sticking their neck out. I understand, but at the same time, I'm not the biggest fan of, because how many records have come out of Vermont that have more than 8 artists on hand? And again, it's not what I'm looking for. It's just that what seems to be people like Kaytranada and people like Anderson .Paak, or even at the top of the most pop market, Justin Bieber has 8 producers on a song.
Right.
So like, there needs to be a team, there needs to be an effort, and a sense of there needs to be a team going on, you know what I mean? So sometimes it does get a little stirry and a little dicey, but I'm also left to just be like, it'll come my way when it comes. So that's why time isn't necessarily of the essence here.
Do you write vocal melodies and vocal parts for people, or do you have them kind of write their own shit?
They write their own shit. They, like with the Letters or with the Good Company album, they would write, like, I would basically pitch the album, pitch the thing to Steph, and I would just say like, here's these, you know, well, it's not, I'd basically be like, here's these easy chords, or chords that, because a lot of vocalists are kind of like, they get pretty tooth and nail when you start to like press their vocal floor and their ceiling. You know,
that's not a good key for me, actually.
Yeah, exactly. And I love what, like, and this aren't my words, but they're a guy that I really have grown good knowledge from. He would say the black scale, which is like mostly the black keys.
Yeah.
Like I love like D sharp major and that kind of thing. Like I thrive off of like ghost notes and like things that don't necessarily appease the more clean poppy crowd. Mm-hmm. It's more like Anderson .Paak and Saba and No Name. They thrive off of these like in between notes that encapsulates this kind of like hard to mimic vibe. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love how when you turn that stuff on, you go like, oh, this is that. And if it's not that, it's that band playing. So that stuff intimidates people, which I didn't realize. I'm just like, man, like I love this vibe, but it's retracting the vocalist from wanting to put something on it because they feel so in that sense, if I were to write for people, it would probably be what they wouldn't think of or want, which is okay. I mean, it's not like I'm Einstein over here.
That sounds cool in a way.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what I want, and I'm just kind of searching for it.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably argue in the, I don't know, 30 minutes I've known you that you probably do know what you want, and you're good at that shit, and you're just like, maybe you just haven't found the right collab or the right approach or whatever, but you have a sound that you want, you have a record that you want, and maybe it's just the approach to filling in those other people that you're still trying to kind of figure out. Because I guarantee you, like, if Mark and I were like, what is your album? What do you want it to sound like? And you're like, this is exactly, you would have exactly what you want.
Like, dude, what are you, my therapist?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be like Telephone meets Malibu.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be those two like in conglomerate as like, yeah, like, of course I know what I want to sound like, but I also don't want to sound like I know what I'm doing more than the next man who's created that.
Yeah.
Like, fucking, you know, if I was placed with those resources and like I was in a brand new studio just around a bunch of keyboards that I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the environment that I'm trying to not reassure those people that I'm going to deliver that.
Yeah.
And as much as I would love to, and as much as I would love to be, just have my name written on Malibu or Telephone by No Name or Saba's new album, or like all of these basically gospel written so like albums and pieces of music, it's all like pretty much traced by gospel in it. At first it was like one of the things that I didn't think fully appreciated. I was like very much in jazz, and then like, you're totally spot on, man. Like, you know that I know what I want.
Yeah. I mean, it's
you know that I know that you know that I know that he knows.
Exactly. One of those.
Like, I know the feeling though. Like, I don't know. I write a lot of music. I record a lot of music. I do stuff all the time. And, I don't give a fuck at all. I'm just like, this is what I want it to sound like. And, you know, I don't care, but I'm also not at like, I'm not at the level of you as a producer and connections and all that sort of stuff. So it's a different sort of thing. Like, I don't know, those songs or those albums that you were mentioning are like my favorite. Like, I listen to Malibu at least once a month. And like, I mean, all of that, I can't wait for the Silk Sonic record. Like that first song that came out. Like,
yeah,
dude,
like,
I tell you what, I got a spot opening up for you on Monday if you want to come by.
Yeah.
Let's say it like that. Like, bro,
yeah.
I feel like I can't get enough of people that love those types of music, because let's be honest, like where we're at, like that's the unpopular opinion.
Yeah. So
like when I'm DJing, I can mix it in a little bit, but it's not like something that people want to hear. Like, I Am Nobody.
What do people want to hear?
People want to hear music that is like mathematically equated to make them feel good or sad, and it's like blends in with the next, and like times like shift to a certain sound, like how Pop Smoke is huge.
Yeah.
But the UK has been doing that forever.
Mm-hmm.
UK has been doing like that specific like drum sequence and that like movement of like bass glides and all that stuff. But it didn't become popular because a lot of people don't really like how like people sound like this and that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they weren't really fucking with it. And then Pop Smoke comes along, and then it's like he's blew up.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. I mean, he came out of nowhere. Auto-tune, like that kind of thing. There's all these aesthetics that like equate to like a final product that becomes not only absorbed but like easily replicated. And for me, I personally think that you know, there's certain stuff that's really hard to replicate. like Jacob Collier and Daniel Caesar and all those guys. Like, you can't just set at the keyboard and be like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Jacob Collier is like impossible to emulate because he's like the most musical person in the entire world, basically.
gives me a headache, man.
Dude, but it's so good. I mean, like
it's a good headache. It's a very good one.
His mixing and like
Good
not
headache.
only just his theory and his perfect pitch and his instrumentation, but just the mix of everything. It's like those last couple albums. I mean, and there's that track with Daniel Caesar on it, like "Time Alone with You." That song is just
so good.
Fucking
then the
unbelievable.
I harm you challenge.
Yeah.
Like, fuck, man. Because he's like using an app where you can't even like click into like specific spots. Like he's using an app where he just like basically like does track one. It's like using Pro Tools, but you have nothing, like, you know, nothing on the program.
Yeah.
So you're just like tracking based off of like no time.
Yeah.
No click track, none of it.
Right.
So yeah, I think that stuff is obsolete, but I mean, what are you going to do? It's not popular though.
Well, are we talking about like Malibu, the Anderson .Paak album?
Yes.
Well,
yeah.
that blew up. A lot of people like that shit. He's popular, so like.
I'm saying like the Malibu blew up. No Name Telephone did like okay,
yep.
And then Jacob Collier is below that.
Mm-hmm.
You have these three tiers.
Yep.
And like
right.
Jacob Collier is at the bottom. And like he's won a Grammy. He's done his work. Like, I think, right? Did he win a Grammy?
He's won a Grammy every year for like the last 3 years, I think. At least.
Yeah. So he's been like doing his job. Like at the same time, though, I think that musicality gets underlooked because it's not as listenable.
Right.
So you get into this market of like, what's the most listenable thing we got?
Yeah.
A 4-chord 1-5-3-2, or you know what I mean? It's just like the market sections into this one really small tunnel of it, and like Stevie Wonder would roll over in his grave.
Right.
I don't know when the like modern pop music got so fucking like sad. Like you can even have like a trap beat going, but then like the lyrics and the vocal performance is just so
subpar,
so emotional.
Well, the thing about pop music is they were able to create reality TV through music. They were able to take someone who was good looking and the poster child for the cover photo and the cover music video that they wanted. Excuse me. And then they would take autotune and say like, we'll just replace that musicality aspect with like something marketable. And they got really savage for a while. But Justin Bieber was one of the few who, and I'm not a fan, but he was one of the few who actually had musicality. And he's done some good things, some bad things. I'm very mutual and non-biased, but I think like the pop world is suffering really bad.
Yeah.
I fucking love Justin Bieber, man. The album that with Diplo,
he's dope.
Like,
okay.
Like
he's actually dope.
My little son got into Bieber, and last year that record Changes was my most listened to record on Spotify.
Okay.
I'm not saying I'm a huge fan, but for some reason, for multiple reasons, Changes, that like R&B one he did last year.
Yeah.
I listened to that a shit ton.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like, and a ton of people
I won't shy away from it.
I wouldn't, because like if I were to tell you something, it'd be like the truth. And I think that like I'm like, before you were in the chat, I was mentioning that my brother is like more of an audiophile. He is like a listen to everything guy, and he's actually what got me making music. I'm the opposite. Like I find my corner of the world and I stay in it.
Yeah.
And like, and that means that I just don't listen to a lot of music. I don't like, my girlfriend has showed me some of my 2 favorite songs in the past year. So like,
what are they?
My girlfriend is in the sense, like my, kind of like my older brother, where I'm like, oh, like what? what is this? And like, I can't do that for myself. So I am not a good example of someone who can assess what's going on nowadays with music, because I don't know if I'm hard to impress, or I'm just ignorant, or I can repeat the same recipe, but yeah.
We're all music snobs in a way, I'm sure. All three of us,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You can't make music as much as we all do and not be like a slight snob or opinionated about what you like.
For sure. I get that. We're all just like, that snare was just a little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
I 100% agree with that.
I used to have a rule of trying to not do 4 on the floor, but just as you just said, no, I just tried super hard for some reason back like 5 years ago, like the early Medela records. I was like, no 4 on the floor. I'm not going to do it. I still don't even really know why. I thought it was like a cop out or something, or I wanted to be dancey without having to do that. But now I'm like super into 4 on the floor.
The problem with it is that like 4 on the floor can sound so stiff.
Yeah.
And if you can remove that stiffness and create more like
that's a great fucking point.
Human qualities. Like Kate Tronado was good at like doing like he added swing to it. Like I could pull up tracks that like I've worked on where I'm just trying to sit in Kate Tronado's seat. Like I'm not over here trying to like be like, this is mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not on a bigger and better things, but like to sit behind that seat of just like tapping out or like getting a result that is less robotic. Because I think like the TR-808 phase and like the whole step pad phase, I hate that. But I hate it with a passion because it's created some really good like West Coast music.
Yep.
It's created really good trap. Like there's moments where that's helped, like really benefited the musicality of the world. But there is a point where like that swing just, I don't know, it feels more like Caribbean meets 4 to the floor.
Yep.
And I love it.
I think let's go into some of like, I have some questions just about your music making process. So like if someone was to watch you, like write a beat, what would that look like? Is it different every time? Do you have a process for it? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it like, it spoils with time. So like the access to like, that's a really good question. So like we used to have drum breaks, and drum breaks would like dictate the like flow or where you would build that beat from. I always start with chords before drums. There's this whole battle where it's like white meets black, where like one side is like drums before chords or chords before drums, and like there's obviously instances that fall in the middle, but I think that like I'm a chord guy. I'm a huge chord guy, so sometimes I will like play something that is within my like field of like knowledge, and then there's other times where I will play I'll drop an acapella and then just like bring it into the program. I'll make sure that it sounds on beat, and then I will like look at that chord chart and start to like familiarize myself with that. But before that, it was just like chop up a jazz or like soul, whatever, and then just like go from there. There's a very like messy meets a little bit more of a clean approach. And I would say like nowadays in the clean approach, I would, if I'm working with a vocalist, figure out the whole like ceiling roof kind of, or floor meets ceiling, what do they call it? Vocal range.
Yeah.
But it's mostly like, it is mostly when I like see something that I'm like, I want that. I really, really want that. Like you're like strolling down a small town and you see the shop window that's like, it's got the shine around it, and you're like, I really want that.
She will be mine.
What's that?
I was quoting Wayne's World, like when he sees the guitar and he's like, "She will be mine." Oh yes.
Exactly. You're like, oh fuck, I really want that. So a lot of the time it is like what I really, really, really want at this point. But before it was just like very spontaneous, and that kind of contrived approach that I like have going on with me nowadays. Sometimes is not the best. Sometimes it's great. And so I'd say like when I'm making a beat, the variables are it depends on who I'm around, because that would dictate what I'm gonna make. It depends on how I'm feeling or what time of day it is or what I'm going through. And not to be like cliche, it's just like sometimes it's like I just saw this video, like I mentioned earlier, like I want to make that. Mm-hmm. And then it's like the most importantly, what I have on my computer, because what I have available to the community or to the person I'm working with or to the beat that I want to make, that's what dictates exactly what the final product is. So sometimes I'll say, I don't have that reverb, but I got this reverb, or I don't have that synth, or, you know, it's like, it can change very heavily, but the main part is that like I continue my integrity, because when working with 99 Neighbors, like I was on such a strict, like not that I didn't sign up for it. I signed up for it, but they were basically like, we want you to get out of work, make beats for us. And it was not no boot camp type thing, because I was very down, but the end result was that I was, like very, the juice got thinner and thinner each day.
You had to shell out a lot, basically.
Yeah, and it's just like stressful to be around people who go like, well, you're at, no, I want you at, and then you get to, and they want you at, you're like, dude, what do you want from me, man? Yeah, so it's like there's so many variables on that.
Yeah,
but I think the number one is like, what do I have on my setup?
Yeah.
I might have missed this, but did you start out as a piano player? Like what was your what did you start
opposite.
with?
I was supposed to play college hockey.
Oh.
Yeah, no,
nice.
I'm a hockey player. Like I don't want to, so like I was the opposite. Literally the opposite. And
so you started out just making beats and doing like remixes or
just like sampling. Started out sampling, and I always looked up to those guys so much, man. Like, and I started out like Letters was the first song where I could like play live, and I could visualize on the keyboard, and like my ADHD is so buck wild that I view the keyboard in shapes. I'm just like fucking weird, man. I just like, I don't get it. I'm trying to get it, but the point is that no, I was not a keyboard player. I was a sampler.
Yeah.
Who hated sampling. Once I started to understand it, I was like, you're stealing these guys' mastered music. They spent all this money on it. Like, fucking A, man. If that was your product, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You're making more money than you.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm curious to know more about the whole like remix sampling world, like, and like I just saw you put out a super pack, or what did you call it? A sample pack? Not too long ago?
Yeah, sample pack. I put that up very spontaneously. And,
well, I'm psyched to check that out, by the way.
I can send you a link to download it, but it's not anything crazy. When you look at the market of sample packs, it is like I'm trying to build up a that was like a trial run, and I did it did well, but the long story short is that I wanted to create a market from people can like take a large library of my pieces and do better than me. That's cool. What I ultimately want. Is I just like, dude, take what I have to offer and just like fucking kill it. I hate the competitive market in music. The reason why, I mean, what got me into music was I got busted for a bunch of graffiti, and I was like, I'm sick of this graffiti environment. I'm sick of like people um wanting to beat people up for, dude, if someone did better than me on a beat, I'd be like, dude, you're my fucking homie.
Yeah, right.
like, like, come over and chill. Like, drink some beers with me.
Yeah.
But the fact these cats were like, oh, you think you're like better than, like, it just was such a, it was toxic environment. And then like that was actually what literally got me, from my brother's computer story, got me into making music, because I was like, I'm sick of this. I just want to be able to do my own thing. And like, so yeah, like if somebody downloads my sample pack, or if I can give it away for free, anybody that meets me and they're like, I want to get into making beats, I'm like, here's my drive folder. Here's Ableton, Waves, here's Sound Toys. Like, have it. Like, the world is your oyster. Like, that makes someone so excited. And the world needs more of that in music making, rather than being like, fuck you for, you know, the latter.
I was going to say the same thing. We need more of that type of attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real. Yeah, it's depressing.
You mentioned, before we like move on past this too, you're like a sick artist too. Like, that's something that I've noticed just from, you know, checking out your Instagram page and following some stuff. Have you always been that good of a like illustrator, or is that something that you've been like working on lately? Or
I mean, like, yeah, I've always got, I was obsessed with drawing cars. Yeah. I loved the aerodynamics of cars, and yeah, I love drawing faces and that stuff. Since I met my girlfriend, like I've become more like into art. There was a huge gray period, but yeah, like I've always, I was an artist, and I was a visual artist. I wasn't a musician ever, like band class, never, like, and I'm not trying to claim that I'm doing anything crazy, because there's people out there who are musicians that are, you know, very qualified and very, the thing is they like don't know the whole technological side of it, where you can just play the same chord just with a different patch and that kind of thing, and create this crazy charting, you know, song or whatever. But yeah, like that was my main jam.
That's sick, man. That's a talented dude over here, man. Good for you.
Come on, dude. Come on.
So I'll throw a couple other questions at you here. So you mentioned a couple of times just about some of the artists that you work with, and like placements and stuff like that. Like, how do you navigate that world? Do you reach out to people that you like? Do people reach out to you? Like, what's that like?
The dog-eat-dog world. Like, it's kind of like, don't expect nothing, but want everything kind of thing. Like, you see someone like this dude Kenny Shane, who worked with Mick Jenkins, like had some ad on my Instagram feed, and I was like, I hit him up, and it took like 4, like, yeah, there was like many, like, it's a constant, more than a concentrated form of like approaching somebody, that being like, hey, because like the number one factor that makes me go like, oh, okay, I can understand where this person is coming from, is when through Chill Hop, like there's such a saturated market, and they do like so well that like I'll have Instagram DMs from that are, so when you're not friends with somebody, you get these like requests tab.
Yeah.
And then when you view that, you like look at, like, you're like, oh shit, like this person's trying to get a hold of me, and it was like 4 months ago. So I understand that market of somebody who is like exponentially way more popular, where they're like, they don't even see it. They probably will never see it. And so there's this kind of, yeah, like you have to be persistent. And I've been very fortunate through like living in Vermont, being a very small kind of bubble, to be able to create these connections and stuff. But yeah, like it's one of those things where you just have to be like very persistent.
Do you reach out to people just all the time?
Not all the time. It's people that like shout out to me. Like if I'm drinking and I'm like just chilling and I'm in bed, I'm about to go to bed, and then that video shouts out to me, I like save it so that their posts, because like the Instagram algorithm that is from saving something, like you start to like see more of their posts even if they're older.
Yep.
I'll take advantage of that. So if I see a keyboardist playing chords, I'll save that. And a lot of times I've like just straight up screen recorded and downloaded someone playing the organ.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this whole like multifaceted like relationship that you share with the world, that whereas like if you want it, you know, be persistent and go and get it. Like with the Count, like I've been homies with the Count for like ever, and I fucking love that. Like I wish I could do what he's doing, but I'm not about to step on his ground. I'm just like I'm there to be a spectator. And like the difference between being a spectator and an involver or a creator is like huge. And if you step that ground, then you're kind of like infringing on how that person views you. So there's a very fine line between how you approach people that you really like, that you think they would benefit from you.
Yep.
And the latter. Yeah.
Which I noticed Adam Deutsch.
Like
Adam, man.
I noticed he commented on like every post of your Instagram post that I was like going through your feed, like checking stuff out. And I was like, oh, there's Adam Deutsch again. What's your relationship with him? Nasty fucking drummer.
Oh my God. The best.
Dude,
yeah.
So dope. I mean, he like, it's crazy seeing someone like I'll be like, I was telling my girlfriend about it. I was like, oh, do you remember the drummer from Lettuce? And she's like, Lettuce, I know them. And he's super cool, man. He's super dope. That's one of those relationships where I don't know how it happened, and I'm not questioning it.
Yeah.
And I'm taking
awesome.
well, yeah, like full stream ahead. I've sent him not a bunch. Like I've sent him like 6 different songs to be like, hey, I left the drums off the track, like drum on it all you want, and then send it to me like with your drums soloed and yada yada. And it's been dope. And like he's definitely, but it's again like it's the conversation, unfortunate timing that you weren't here for, where I was like, I'm not trying to release beats. I'm trying to release songs with vocals.
Yeah.
So the stuff that he's participated on that I'm really hyped on, the vocals just like didn't pan out. Like for instance, I'm working with this dude, DJ Jazzy Jeff's son.
No shit.
What?
From Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Wow.
Yeah. His name is Umir. He's a really dope dude. He's super cool. But the vocals he sent me are just, they're just not it. So
yeah,
we both know that, I'm sure. It's a kind of it's like a, yeah.
And Adam was on that specific track. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of that stuff is just like pieces to the puzzle. So it just is what it is. And if it's like not what you're looking, it's not like the like moment, then that's not what I'm looking for. And like I'm not capable of that as a drummer. So like I'm not trying to knock him. I'm just saying that like when you work with Danny Whitney and you're just like, fuck. Like this is it. Yeah.
That's rad, man. Yeah, I've seen Deitch like 20 times or something like that, you know, like throughout all of like going out and seeing him all over the country. And the break science stuff, like I love break science too. Like I would figure your music would work well with that sort of project too, you know?
Me too, man. Like me too.
What's the keyboard?
No
what's the keyboard player's name? Is it Orem Lee? Is that the guy that plays with them in break science?
To be honest, man, I'm so out. Like I'm a Pink Floyd guy.
Yeah.
I love progressive rock, but like I have no grip of that section of music. Yeah. I'm dead honest. I just know him as DITC cheat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Like playing with John Schofield, like he's a badass drummer, dude. Like,
what do you think I should do with him?
I don't know.
Like, well, that sounds fucked up, but you know what I mean. Like, what would you like to see for me to send him?
I don't know, man. I think your music and his vibe works well. I think that it's almost like a drum feature. Like that's like you can have a vocalist feature, you can have, you know, a guitar player in the background, but it's sick when you have someone that can drum so melodic and in like a lead capacity like he does.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you don't want him like soloing the whole time, but he could play the same pattern fucking 100 different ways.
I just think that I'm not like, and I agree with you. I just don't think I'm like, I don't think I'm helping him out of it. It's not a 50-50. Like,
is that
Jim's on like 40 and I'm on, you know what I mean?
Is that
like, I'm not giving him that like oomph factor yet.
Did he tell you that?
And that's my fault. That's my fault. Like I just don't think that there's nothing that's come along where I've had to like tooth and nail be like, I have to cut you from this track.
Yeah.
And that's my own doing. Like there's nothing that's been so like, for instance, the new Bruno Mars Anderson .Paak track.
Yeah.
Like he would smash that.
Right.
But I don't have that right now. And like that's my competitive through like being a jock. It's like my whole competitive market is that like I beat up on myself and it's just not there yet. But I would love to. I'd love to have I'd love to put out something.
Yeah. I mean, are you always this hard on yourself about your music?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And then you play it, everyone you play it for is like, dude, this is fucking incredible. Probably, right? You have buddies over and you're like, yo, let me play you this track. And they're like, what the fuck? Why haven't you released this yet?
No, it's just like, it's not like, it's not, yeah, it's not the case. It's just like, I don't know how to put it, man. It's just, it's like my own doing. And it's like, I'm my own worst critic, but, there hasn't been anything that has been like, I get excited about stuff because I made it.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
Well, I think there is
not to be negative about it.
Yeah. I think that you're probably, the reason why you're so good is because you're so negative about your own shit. Right. So you have like,
I would hope
you're like, have such a high bar that you've set for yourself. And you're super particular about stuff and you bust your ass on mixing and editing the bass drum so it's perfect and putting the swing on it. Like that's why you're at the place where you're at. So, so you don't want to sacrifice your like negative approach just because you think you should release something or someone says it's good. So it's like, it seems like a tough balance. Like
the tough balance is like something that I've made versus somebody. Okay, so my biggest thing, I want to make music for somebody who doesn't give a fuck about music theory.
Yeah,
and
right.
Who doesn't care about any of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, like I mixed this bass drum while I was in a closet of Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Like, don't care, dude. I don't care. Like, just fucking play the song.
Yeah.
That's the market I'm trying to fill. Is like, it's just unequivocally, unbiasedly, like just makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why I love Anderson .Paak and like that amongst like others. But you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I don't want there to be a backstory.
Yeah.
I just want it to be there.
Yeah. How much?
Which is tough.
Dude, I know. How much like unreleased shit do you have? You just have a vault, as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. Like, okay, this track, what was this? This is the song. I don't know if it'll sound like shit.
It will sound like shit.
It'll definitely sound like shit. But that's the problem with like all this stuff is that it's like, I mean, like, what are you after, and what are you trying to do? Which market are you trying to sell to, and how are you trying to approach such? And it's crazy because like you can't predict that. Like nowadays there's so many random songs, random being like the random approach that becomes okay. So what's that song? The Box by Roddy Ricch.
Yeah.
So do you know the whole story behind that?
I mean, it's extremely popular. I don't know the whole story behind it, but
Roddy Ricch was in the studio and he went,
okay.
And the manager was like, "Oh my fucking God, get him out." And Roddy was like, "No, like, I want this to be on the song." And his manager was like, "Dude, no." And it's a fucking hit now.
It's a hit.
Like, because he's just random.
Yep. I got a bunch of quick questions. I think we've gotten through like a whole bunch of the meat of it, and I like to try to keep it at like around an hour. So I'm gonna just ask you a bunch of like either or quick response questions here.
Yeah.
So hit me. Good. So D'Angelo or Marvin Gaye?
Come on, dude.
Come on, you gotta fucking answer it, dude. That's the deal.
D'Angelo, because of the Philly Five.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I mean
Marvin Gaye, yeah. Marvin Gaye did a lot for music, but like the Philly Five, D'Angelo.
You can
Oh my God, no, I can't decide, man.
It's a very tough question.
D'Angelo.
I listened to Voodoo and Brown Sugar, and then even the latest album, his last one, I listened to that shit at least once a month. When I first got my license, the first CD I had in my car was Voodoo. So it's just like, that's just like all.
It's because like Voodoo, like D'Angelo serves as background music just as much as he serves as foreground music.
Completely. Like I've listened to that record, like, I don't know, 10,000 times. Like it's my favorite album. So what's the favorite place that you've ever been in the whole world? Just like traveling or like being around, like what's your favorite place?
Bedside, Brooklyn. Probably like Fulton or Bushwick Ave.
Do you have friends or family down there, or you just love it?
No, that's the farthest west I've ever gone in my life.
No shit.
So, it's a very small book.
Yeah, that's cool though. Like
4 pages.
What about like what was the first concert that you remember going to?
Oh God. The first concert I ever played was an after party for Reggie Watts.
Sick.
I know it's a high note, but it served as a very low note because I wanted to play live drums and it was good. It was like I like did my thing, but it was not as good as it could have been.
Okay. Were you like live looping your drums?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like playing. I was playing in like an MPC live.
Yep. Was he there?
So, like I was playing the whole drums and stuff. Very cringy.
Was Reggie Watts there?
Yeah. And he's like, look, he's looking over my. Yeah. It was like, oh God. It's a very eyes closed moment.
Well, that's cool. What about like what's your favorite part of using Ableton? Like what if you're like pitching someone on Ableton, what would you say?
I would say it's the fact that I can DJ, record a 4-bar section on a 16-part verse, and use the automation sparingly and like it's very transparent. Mm-hmm. It's very like impromptu meets like I can change elements of the song and have them not change the flow of the session while I'm playing through the speakers.
Yeah. Do you have Ableton 11 yet?
I have the torrented version of Ableton.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That shit works.
Yeah.
I started out recording with Pro Tools, and And then I'd always use Ableton for remixing and fucking around. And over the last year, I just went full speed into Ableton. I'm like never, ever going back, like ever.
It's so sick.
You can use as little of it or as much of it as you want to, you know? And that's
my guy.
That's the best part about it. Like I never really fuck around with automation too much just to turn some filters up or some effects, but like the ease of it is just wonderful. Like,
it's so crazy. It's unmatched, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't have much experience, but yeah, it's definitely one of a kind. I mean, it started like the session view is like how it started. So
yeah. What's your favorite like plugin that you've been using lately? Could be anything, synth, effect, whatever. Like what's something you've been vibing on lately?
Ooh, it's really hard. I would say it's a dead match between well, obviously Arturia.
Yep.
But I'm like diving, wait, what is it? Vercillion Studio upright piano.
Okay.
This shit is gas. Like it is so fucking dope. And the reason why I really like it is because it's just like it makes sense.
I mean, that sounds good on that iPad speaker, so it's got to be sounding good on your. It sounds good on the iPad speaker, so I guarantee it sounded good on the monitors you got.
I would say it was like Arturia or like basically anything Arturia makes.
Yeah.
Or Native Instruments, like they do. Both of those companies like definitely do their homework, and they like make something that sounds really good for a good price. But when it comes to free stuff, I would just say like, just go. Okay, so if you just like Google searched free plugins 2020,
oh yeah,
you can find so much good stuff, and you can just like apply audio effects or, you know, like you can make it sound good. But my favorite would probably be like Arturia.
Yeah, I have a couple of those things. Yeah, I downloaded all the free plugins. You know, the two ones that I got recently, the Valhalla reverbs, those are sick, and they have like the free Q and the super massive. Those are both free, and those are badass, man.
They sound so good, dude.
I know,
like they kill it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of all those Valhallas. What's like the? Let me think. Dre or Snoop?
Dude, you're killing me. Dre, easily, because Dre is like Anderson .Paak's.
It's his guy. They're boys, man.
Guy.
Yeah.
Dre made the choices for Anderson .Paak, just the same way that Diddy made the choice for all the New York rappers.
Right.
Like the baby, yeah.
And like that, I think the first Anderson .Paak I heard was on the Compton record, the Dre record. It's like track 7 or 8, and Anderson .Paak's like on 4 or 5 of those tracks, or 4 or 5 of those tracks on that record.
Wait, really?
Yeah. There's a song that he's on lead on, and then he's singing background on, I think 3 or 4 of the songs, and he's on like the credits for some of the songwriting stuff on there too.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
I have to look that up.
That album. I mean, like obviously Chronic 2001 is like one of my favorite records of all time, but the Compton album is so good. And I listen to that all the time. There's so many good songs on that record, and Anderson .Paak's all over that.
Dre, I was so surprised with. Like at first I was like, okay, this guy uses like a bunch of samples and like he's okay at the keyboard, but you start to realize like that dude knows the fuck, and he's like a jock.
Yeah.
He like never took a music class. Like he was the least most gangster, like, you know, Eazy-E died because he was the fucking street dude.
Right.
Whereas like Dr. Dre was like, I mean, he was a savage in his own way. Like he was a savage in his brain.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, dude. He's a jock like you. You and Dre, man.
All right, man. Don't feed my ego. Jesus.
Who's someone like a local musician that people should know more about?
That's a hard one, man. That's a really hard one. Fuck. Danny Whitney, man.
There you go.
Danny Whitney. For sure, man. He's trying to figure out how to use a program. Like, and I don't mean trying as if like he's like failing. I just like he's succeeding as such, but yeah, he is like, God, man, if he had the same resources as like other people, it'd be a wrap. I'm gonna vote Danny. I got all my money on Danny.
All right, last two questions. What do you suck at musically?
Releasing music. Releasing music and finishing songs.
Yep.
For sure. Terrible at it.
What are you really good at musically?
Oh man. Not learning to put myself not making myself how do I word this? Not like not telling people to listen to my music because I made it, or not appreciating my music because I made it. If I made it, it doesn't make a big fucking deal. Mm-hmm. Good music sells good music. So if I'm trying to come to you and say that I made this beat and you have to listen to this beat, fuck that. That's the one thing that I'm like good at, is being like, maybe to like my girlfriend and my close friends, I'll like, you know, be like, hey, I made this and I'm really excited about it. But like the number one thing I hate is like, you shouldn't shove music down people's throats because you made it. Mm-hmm. I think that's like the biggest thing that like I dislike from a musician.
That's profound right there. That's some good shit, man.
I mean, like, how annoying is it when someone does that to you? You know, like they're your homie and they're like, yo, I just made this new beat. Listen to it. And they stare you.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude,
I know.
Fucking, I'll like it when I like it, but like,
yeah. I mean, I'm an offender of that. I mean, I think to some extent, like we all are, but
I was about to say, we all are. We've all been there. Like, it's not about the fact that you're like trying to do that. It's like you're passionate.
Yeah.
And you're passionate about it. You're like, this is like something I really like. But to be a repeat offender amongst like X amount of times is kind of like why do you make music?
Yeah. I've realized that lately too. I'm like, I don't know. I don't.
Dude, I'm going on like 100 times.
Yeah. Like, I don't.
so like I did like a handful amount of times.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. Well, cool. Well, hey, Lupo, thank you for taking the time.
We gotta hang out soon.